Okay, today we're going to learn about simplifying rational expressions. And the first thing we want to do is understand what a rational expression is. Okay, it's a ratio, whose numerator, okay, and denominator are polynomials. Okay, and it's important to know that the denominator, it has to be a non-zero, right? If we divide by 0, it would be undefined. So the denominator will have to be a non-zero. Okay, so those are important things to understand about a rational expression. Let's look at our first example. Okay, we're going to divide a monomial by a monomial, and we're going to use the rule of exponents. So you've probably seen an example, a problem similar to our example before in the past. Okay, so let's take a look at it. We're going to take 16 divided by 4. Whoops, that's a little large. Okay, 16 divided by 4 gives me 4. Okay, and I have an x in the numerator and I have 5 in the denominator, so I know that I will have x to the 4th in the denominator because I have more down here. And you could have done like the quotient rule where x to the first, 1 minus 5 gives you -4. So you'd have x to the -4 up here and then move it down to the denominator because it was a negative exponent. Okay, there's couple different ways to think about how to simplify that. Okay, now I have y squared and y squared both in the numerator and the denominator, and I know that anything divided by itself will give me 1. So in a way, the y's kind of disappear. And then I have z squared. Okay, so my final answer is going to be 4z squared divided by x to the 4th. Okay, just by simplifying. All right, and we're going to continue getting a little more difficult. So let's take a polynomial divided by a monomial. And the first thing we need to do is divide each term of the polynomial by the monomial. All right, so what does that mean? I'm going to take 9x squared divided by 3x minus 21x divided by 3x plus 3 divided by 3x. Okay? And then I can simplify each expression, or each term within the expression. Okay? So 9 divided by 3 is 3. And I have x squared divided by x will give me x. Minus 21 divided by 3 is 7. And the x's will cancel. I could use a different color for that. X's will cancel. Okay. And then I have 3 divided by 3 is 1. And the x is going to stay in the denominator. So this would be my final simplified answer. Okay, let's continue. A polynomial divided by a polynomial, okay, it's already in factored form, which is great. And remember what we said, that when we had y squared divided by y squared, anything divided by itself is going to give me 1. So if you look at this, I can see that I have x plus 4 in the numerator and x plus 4 in the denominator. So anything divided by itself is going to be 1. So my simplified answer is just going to be x plus 3 over x minus 1. Okay. Now we're doing a polynomial divided by a polynomial when both are in standard form. Okay, so we do have to do some steps. We need to put it in factored form, both the numerator and the denominator, and then we can simplify. So I'm going to rewrite the numerator in factored form as x minus 6 times x minus 9 divided by, I factor out a 12, get 12 parentheses minus 6, x minus 6. And I can simplify anything that are the same. So x minus 6 over x minus 6 is actually 1. And my final answer will be x minus 9 over 12. Okay. Some people think that 9 and 12, because they have 3 in common, they should simplify. You cannot do that, okay? This operation has to be first, x minus 9. And what I kind of tell my students is x minus 9, whenever you have addition or subtraction, they're stuck like glue. Okay, this symbol right here keeps those two together. They cannot be simplified with some number in the numerator or the denominator. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Do not think that you can start simplifying. Even like up here, a lot of my students want to just cancel these out. Okay, you cannot do that. This operation has to be first, and this division bar kind of acts as a form of grouping. Okay. Let's go to the next page. All right. Sometimes we're going to have to rewrite when in factored form and simplify. And so let's do this one so I can explain better what that means. Okay, we're going to factor the numerator so we can simplify. And we would get x plus 5 times x minus 2 all over 2 minus x. And you might think right away that x minus 2 and 2 minus x are the same. Well, they're really not, okay? You could say this is negative 2 plus x, and that's not the same thing. So what you kind of need to do is factor out a negative 1. All right? So I would say if I factor out a negative 1, then I know that this would be positive and this would be negative, and now it's the same. Okay, so now I can say, we're going to kind of take this guy, take this guy away. We rewrote it like this, and now I can cancel this with this, and I will have negative 1 times x plus 5, and I can simply rewrite that as negative x minus 5 as my final answer. Okay? So sometimes you do have to rewrite these so they do match perfectly. Let's do just a couple more examples so you feel comfortable with this. If we look at letter F, we can see that the numerator is factored, but the denominator is not. So I'm going to cross this off and put x plus 3 times x minus 3. Okay, and then I can see that I can simplify the ones that are the same, which will give me 4 times x plus 2 divided by x plus 3. Okay, and you can write this in factored form. Some people like to write it in standard form. And there's the 2. Either one would be correct, depending on what is asked of you. Okay, let's scroll down to letter G. Again, I'm going to have to factor now, both the numerator and the denominator this time. So in the numerator, I'm going to factor out a 7x. I'm left with x minus 7 divided by, when you factor this, you will get 3x minus 2 times x minus 7. Okay, and I can see that my x minus, oops, wanted to change my color there. X minus 7's cancel. So I'm left with 7x over 3x minus 2. Okay, and we have one more example. Again, we're going to factor. So in the numerator, I will have it factored as, first I can factor out a 7. So I'm left with x squared minus 8x plus 12. And in the denominator, I can go ahead and factor right away to give me x plus 1 times x minus 6. Okay, but I still have some more factoring to do in the numerator. So I'm going to write 7, and I end up with x minus 2 times x minus 6, and I have my denominator. Okay, and I can see that my x minus 6 will cancel, because that will give me 1. And my final answer is 7 times the quantity x minus 2 all over x plus 1. Okay, you don't need to have the parentheses here in the denominator, but it's up to you. And again, if we want to write in standard form, we would say it's 7x minus 14 all over x plus 1. Okay, either one would be correct. All right, I hope this helped.